Some rivalries changed the music industry without anyone realizing it at first. The feud between Nicki Minaj and Cardi B wasn't just a headline-grabbing fight, it was a collision of ambition, power, and hidden tensions that the public only saw pieces of behind every viral clip, cryptic social media post, and whispered rumor. There were unseen forces shaping the narrative. Managers, labels, and media outlets all playing a part. Fans often thought the drama began with the infamous shoe-throwing incident, but the truth is far deeper. This story didn't start with a confrontation, it started in the shadows, long before the cameras, headlines, and memes made it impossible to ignore. Long before the public ever heard about Nicki Minaj and Cardi B clashing, the tension was quietly building behind the scenes. Cardi was climbing her way up through social media, viral Instagram clips, backstage glimpses, and eventually her breakout role on Love and Hip Hop, where her bold personality and unfiltered confidence made her impossible to ignore. She wasn't just another reality star trying to break into music, she had charisma, hustle, and a unique voice that demanded attention. Meanwhile, Nicki had already spent nearly a decade at the top of rap, setting the standard for female MCs everywhere. She wasn't just successful, she was the benchmark every new rapper was measured against, the queen whose influence shaped the entire industry. As Cardi's star began to rise, whispers started circulating online. Fans couldn't resist drawing comparisons. Is she the next Nicki? Or Nicki finally has competition? Some comments were harmless, but others hinted at a subtle, growing tension, as if the world was expecting a showdown that hadn't even started yet. Industry insiders noticed too, keeping a close eye on the unfolding dynamic. Labels began weighing in, executives watching carefully to see how the market would respond to a new female rapper challenging an established queen. The narrative of rivalry was quietly forming, and even if neither woman openly acknowledged it, the pressure was real. Meanwhile, in private conversations and behind-the-scenes meetings, hints of unease emerged. Some suggested that Nicki saw the rising buzz around Cardi and felt a subtle threat to her dominance. Others speculated that Cardi was aware of Nicki's reputation and the weight of her legacy, yet determined to carve her own space regardless. The industry loves a story of competition, especially between women in rap, and slowly but surely, the seeds of a feud were planted. And here's the thing, long before a shoe was thrown or a cryptic Instagram post appeared, the stage was being set. Fans, media, and insiders were all playing their part, shaping a storyline that would eventually explode into a feud the world couldn't ignore. Two powerful personalities, both ambitious and unafraid, were on a collision course, and nobody yet realized just how much it would change the game. The first public hint that things weren't entirely smooth between Nicki and Cardi came with the release of Motorsport. On paper, it should have been a celebration, a collaboration between two of the most powerful women in rap at the time, but behind the scenes, the rollout was anything but seamless. Fans quickly noticed that verses had been shuffled, lines altered, and the release itself delayed. Rumors began circulating that Nicki wanted a different version of the track, while Cardi claimed in interviews that communication had been unclear and she had felt blindsided by the sudden changes. For Nicki, the speculation stung. She was already wary of how narratives were being spun around her, and suddenly, the media was suggesting tension where she hadn't even fully seen it. Cardi, on the other hand, was trying to navigate a space she was still establishing herself in, and the shifting dynamics left her frustrated. Fans quickly picked sides, dissecting every lyric, every interview snippet, every Instagram caption, turning minor adjustments into major headlines. The Motorsport situation became a microcosm of the larger pattern that would define their feud. Miscommunications amplified by the media, subtle gestures turned into public statements, and both women finding themselves caught in a whirlwind of speculation. At this point, it wasn't about music, it was about perception, power, and positioning. And while the drama surrounding a single song may have seemed small, it foreshadowed the volatility that would soon explode into public view. This was only the beginning, the very first cracks appearing in a relationship that fans assumed was purely professional. Behind the verses and the studio sessions, the tension was quietly mounting, preparing the world for the moment that would finally make it impossible to ignore. Once Motorsport had stirred the pot, the feud began escalating in ways fans couldn't always see. Through subtweets, interviews, and cryptic social media posts, Nicki's interviews started carrying a weight that hadn't been there before, filled with hints of feeling unappreciated or overlooked, leaving listeners to read between the lines. Meanwhile, Cardi began posting messages about women supporting women that felt perfectly timed, almost like a response, even if no names were mentioned. Blogs and gossip pages amplified every move, interpreting innocent gestures as calculated shots and the rumors started painting a picture of industry politics where labels were allegedly positioning Cardi as the next Nicki. Whether intentionally or not, fans found themselves in a frenzy, trying to decode every story, every line, every look. Can you believe they said that without actually naming names? Imagine if you were in their shoes, how would you handle being constantly scrutinized while every subtle gesture is dissected as a feud? Both women tried to downplay tensions publicly, insisting they were on good terms, yet the fan pages, gossip blogs, and social media posts kept amplifying every hint of drama. It was a silent war fought in interviews, Instagram captions, and subtle public appearances, with the outside world only catching glimpses. This phase set the tone for what was to come. A war of perception rather than direct confrontation. The tension was growing, hidden in plain sight, and while nothing explosive had happened yet, the pieces were all being set in place. And then just when fans were piecing together this narrative bit by bit, came the night that would make everything impossible to ignore. The feud that had been simmering in subtweets and interviews finally boiled over at New York Fashion Week. It was the Harper's Bazaar event where everything went public in a way fans would never forget. Reports say the tension hit a peak when Cardi confronted Nicki over something deeply personal. "You talked about my child," she claimed, and in a moment that would instantly go viral, a shoe was thrown. Cardi left with a bruise on her forehead, while Nicki stayed composed, later addressing the incident calmly on Queen Radio. Fans exploded on social media, memes spread like wildfire, hot takes flooded comment sections, and people picked sides almost instantly. Can you imagine being in that room, seeing one of the most powerful female rappers in history and a rising star collide like that? What would you do if you were in their position? That incident wasn't just a clash between two stars, it was a spectacle amplified by cameras, social media, and the public's insatiable appetite for drama. But beyond the viral moment, deeper industry forces were at play. Labels, PR teams, and executives were all quietly maneuvering, ensuring this feud would continue to make headlines. The incident wasn't an isolated fight, it was the visible peak of an invisible war, with consequences that went far beyond the fashion show. And as the cameras faded and the news cycle moved on, the ripples of that night were only just beginning to spread. The NYFW incident was just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the headlines, the industry was quietly fueling the fire. Rumors swirled about blocked bags opportunities that Cardi allegedly didn't get because of Nicki's influence. At the same time, whispers claimed Cardi's team was working behind the scenes to protect their rising star. Sometimes at Nicki's expense, PR teams played their part too, strategically planting stories while media outlets picked sides, ensuring the narrative stayed juicy and polarizing. Then there were the numbers. Streaming wars, chart comparisons, and social media engagement became another battleground. Every song release, every radio play, every view count was scrutinized, and fans debated who was truly winning. Imagine being caught in the middle of that, knowing every move you make is dissected by fans, labels, and rival teams. How would you handle that pressure? Even more fascinating, insiders suggested that much of this wasn't personal at all, it was a business strategy. The industry loves a rivalry, especially between women in a male-dominated space. And while the feud seemed personal to the public, behind closed doors, executives were quietly shaping events, ensuring that the drama would continue to drive headlines and attention. But just when things seemed like they might settle, the feud began pulling in more people, creating collateral damage that would extend far beyond just Nicki and Cardi. It had started to pull in their friends, family, and entire entourages. Names like Ra Ali and Hennessy Carolina became part of the conversation, often clashing on social media and amplifying the drama for fans to dissect. Personal insults made headlines, and leaks of DMs, behind-the-scenes phone calls, and audio snippets kept the story alive in ways neither artist fully controlled. The ripple effect was massive. Imagine watching your close friends caught up in a public feud you're only partially involved in. How would you react? Would you step in or try to stay neutral? Fans couldn't get enough, debating every exchange and spreading rumors faster than anyone could verify. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about music or career competition. It became about loyalty, reputation, and who could protect their circle from public scrutiny. Even minor interactions could be magnified into evidence of ongoing tension. Every post, every comment, every tag photo became a potential headline. The feud had grown into a social and cultural spectacle, showing just how far-reaching the consequences could be when private conflicts spill into the public eye. And then just when everyone thought things might settle, a surprising silence fell over the drama. After the chaos of public spats and entourage blowups, both Nicki and Cardi seemed to enter a strange period of silence. It was almost like a Cold War, rare, indirect jabs surfaced here and there, but for the most part they focused on their careers, avoiding direct confrontation in interviews, appearances, and on social media. Fans noticed the careful avoidance. Award shows, red carpets, and even collaborative opportunities seemed orchestrated so the two would never occupy the same space. Rumors of planned reunions and collaborations circulated constantly, only to fizzle before they ever materialized. Industry insiders claimed that this quiet wasn't accidental, that the feud had grown deeper than just personal rivalry, becoming a strategic game influenced by labels, management teams, and media narratives. Imagine being caught in that tension, watching two of your favorite artists carefully tiptoe around each other. Would you try to pick sides or just enjoy the music? Even in silence, the shadow of the feud loomed. Every subtle move, whether a cryptic tweet, an unexpected comment in an interview, or a song lyric, was scrutinized, analyzed, and debated. The Cold War era wasn't about explosions and public drama. It was about strategy, patience, and letting the audience imagine the conflict in ways that made it feel bigger than ever. But eventually the quiet couldn't last forever, and then the tension came roaring back. Just when it seemed like the feud had quieted down, Nicki and Cardi reignited sparks in subtle but unmistakable ways. Recent years have seen subliminal posts, deleted tweets, and dramatic Instagram captions that fans immediately dissected. Every move, every word became a potential jab. Nicki has responded to accusations online, while Cardi has clapped back on Twitter Spaces or Instagram Live, each carefully crafting their own narrative. Imagine scrolling through your feed and catching these moments. How would you react if you were a fan caught in the middle? Rumors also started swirling about new music, potentially containing veiled dices. Every lyric, every bar was analyzed frame by frame, leaving fans to speculate about intent, meaning, and timing. Fan pages and gossip accounts quickly amplified every tiny hint, sometimes turning a simple phrase into a full-blown debate. Even after years of public and private tension, the feud continues to shape how audiences interpret the actions and words of both artists. So what does all of this mean now? Is this about personal rivalry, calculated industry moves, or just a result of a fan culture that thrives on drama? The story isn't just about Nicki and Cardi, it's about how a feud can evolve, disappear, and resurface, impacting not only the artists themselves, but the entire culture of hip-hop. The feud between Nicki Minaj and Cardi B isn't just a series of headlines or viral clips. It's a story that has shaped an entire generation of rap culture. From subtle tension in the early days to public confrontations and the quiet simmering moments in between, this rivalry shows how female artists are often pitted against one another in an industry that thrives on competition. But how much of it was personal, and how much was fueled by industry politics, label maneuvers, or even fan obsession? Can you imagine being in their position, constantly under scrutiny, and having every move analyzed for signs of conflict? At the end of the day, the feud also leaves a bigger question. Who really benefits from the rivalry continuing? Is it the artists themselves, or the ecosystem around them, media, labels, and fans, keeping the tension alive? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear. In music, nothing stays silent forever, and the echoes of this feud will continue to influence the conversation about women in hip-hop for years to come. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of hip-hop's most talked about rivalries, don't forget to comment below with your thoughts like this video, and subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on the drama behind the culture. Who do you think really started it, and who's being played by the game?